Yo,
Oh shit!
NFT God,
Yeah,
yes, that's what
totally.
it was.
Yeah,
Yo, if you, you get the volume. Yo, you want to make the volume, you get paid, baby. Yo,
yes, you're right.
nice.
Totally. That's a good catch up, NFT God. You're totally right.
I got introduced to you like a year ago, and the one thing that really sticks out to me is the fact that you bought the NFT rocks for like nothing and sold them for a hell of a bag. So, would love to get a little bit of a backstory from you, a little bit maybe about that particular story, and then we'll get into some just general NFT talk.
Well, thank you, Steve. Well, first, let me say that intro was absolutely amazing. Don't know how you did that. It was top-notch quality. So, props to you for that. But yes, I think the last time we spoke was on a Twitch stream that we did. Might have been a year and a half ago now. And yeah, it was with Steph and a few other people. I started in the NFT world or really April of last year. Really found out about NFTs in February, but really went in sort of heavily this year, sort of at full time. That particular thing you're referencing, the Etherox, was sometime last year when we had our Twitch stream, and that was when sort of peak euphoria. Gary had just tweeted about this new historic NFT project, and it didn't sell out right away, right? So it just showed you that at the time you could have Gary tweet about stuff and people necessarily didn't know or didn't care about it, at least at the start. So yeah, and then that was really one of my bigger plays early in the days. I learned so much from that one play, because I watched the prices skyrocket immediately after I had that great flip. But it was really the lessons for me. It really provided me so many just perspectives that I needed for all the other plays, and going forward. So that was really the big my one of my big early plays.
It's wild to look back at the craziness that was the bull run of 2021. And I think now we're in a time where a lot of people are kind of wondering, okay, do we ever see anything like that again? Do we see, even the collections that were extremely successful that did sell out? Are they going to be able to hold up during the bear? Is there's been enough being worked on to keep people interested in it? And we're going to talk a little bit about the crypto market here, but obviously the main focus here is going to be NFTs. Neil Bacon, what's up, Fish? How are you? So I guess let's start on the collections that you are kind of taking an eye on. Is there anything that's piquing your interest right now? Or are you kind of like, whoa, we're in danger territory? I'm chilling for the time being.
Yeah, we still are. I would say in danger territory, right? And we probably agree on that. We were just speaking about how all this FTX fallout inevitably will have. I mean, it has impacted NFTs, but I've been of the mindset over the past few months that just you have to stick with quality. It's just It's just like the risk of getting into some of these mid-tier collections is too much in my opinion. So I've always said to myself, you take if you're strictly looking at PFPs, right? I mean, we can talk about art and other stuff, but as far as PFPs, you have the top, 4 or 5. You have the Yuga ecosystem. You can have Moonbird, Suzuki, Clone X. Those are really the handful. I've been of the mindset that these few collections have the staying power and capital. So it's best to be leaving lowball offers, especially during days like we saw last week, where there was max panic and you had all sorts of offers being accepted. So that I've always for the past few months, that's been my strategy, and I think I have reasonable exposure, so I'm not going in too heavy. I'm not sort of I don't want to be a hero here. I'm just at the moment just trying to preserve what I have.
I think that that's one of the key differences that we've seen, though, because before it was like, oh, okay, it doesn't matter if you end up, holding something, maybe it's going to move, or we never really know for the timing of things. And I think that it's interesting that, again, the focus still is on Yuga. So we held a Twitter space the other day, and one of my friends, JVB, was on it, and we kind of had this big discussion about, is Yuga potentially going to create an empire off of the fact that, they have all this funding, and we're seeing with Star Atlas, for example, where their funds were kind of tied up with FTX, and now we have the worry about USDT, we have the worry about Gemini falling, and a lot of people I think would view Gemini higher than they did FTX in terms of safety. I might be wrong with that assumption, but that's kind of just how I feel with it. So do you think that there's a chance that Yuga ends up becoming this empire, this conglomerate, this big player within the space from owning all these different collections? Or do you think, as you said earlier, where the focus is on quality, they're only going to go after something that they deem as top quality?
I see. No, Yuga is is going to be, at least in our space, for as long as I can imagine. They're going to be at the top for the foreseeable future. I mean, I know, like, there this other side ambition. I think that has been the so far the Achilles heel, but I feel it's just way too early in that ecosystem. They released that collection right towards the rear end of the bull run. And then things sort of tumbled from there. But I think, if one has a long-term horizon, it's inevitable that they're going to expand into gaming, and it won't just be a cultural brand. They'll try to intervene in all different types of segments, and I think that's going to continue, and they're going to continue accruing value, which that's wonderful for the space, right? But it also because our space is so small, it takes away a lot of capital. Like it's a drain as well, right? Everything goes towards Yuga. So some of these other projects, they have a bit of a harder time um, coming up. And I'm curious to hear from you around that, because I know you have been a long time Yuga supporter, right?
Yeah, yeah. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, I've been a fan of everything, and I've enjoyed Ape Fest and a lot of the things that they've done. And the other side demo, I thoroughly enjoyed. I thought that it was one of the most fun experiences I think I've ever had within something that's
Wow.
Web3. And at the same time, there's not really been too much that we've been able to do apart from, the excitement with friends, getting together, participating in mints, yada, yada, yada. But I think that now that we're at this point of, okay, we've officially said we're in kind of this down market, I think the expectations are much higher. I was incredibly
Mm.
critical of VFriends, for example, where it's like, hey, I had the original VFriends over the year. We were able to like mint some collections, and we got the VCon ticket, which again, those crashed compared to when they first came out, because I thought the demand was going to be there, and I don't know if they had extra tickets or what. And I was maybe just assuming wrong on my front. But then we look across the space and we're like, okay, how is the end of 2022 going to go? And I mean, we don't want to talk about it too much, but obviously we have this massive FTX issue. But further to that, before that even happened, the SEC was looking into Yuga for the other side sale, saying, hey, this is a security, and nobody, I repeat, nobody is bringing that fact up. Now, does that change a whole lot? Does that mean that, the Yuga headquarters moves out of the United States? They've already put all this money into Miami. I don't really know, but I'm curious for you. What's your sentiment or thoughts coming to the end of 2022 here? Are we going to see all these big announcements, all these big deliverables? Or do you think because of the market, people are going to push this off until early 2023 or even middle of next year?
Yeah, probably the latter. Yeah, definitely. It's probably in their best interest to probably push things out. They have a reputation. They have sort of a moat over announcing stuff, and usually, and almost in most of the time, it's perceived really well, and you see that in the price action. And they want to maintain that. They want to maintain that aura, and the best way to do that is do it when things are a bit better. I think I'm not a macro expert, but this year is not looking well. Next year is not looking too bright either. But you could say it's safe to say that this year, for the next month, it's not looking the best. So I think they'll definitely delay sort of their core announcements. They'll still announce stuff like that. McBee's merch that they had a few weeks ago. Those sort of peripheral things will continue to happen. But I think, and with their acquisition of Larva Labs, I think this is cements their legacy. I don't think there'll be any doubt when we do have that next run. They'll be the leaders again, and for that they needed other side. They need something else, and I think that's why they went there. But you're totally right about the regulatory risk. I didn't really think about that. But I think they have some of their they have some hedges in place, right? We had to do that KYC for the Yuga Labs other deeds, so they probably took those precautions.
I'm curious what these legal teams are all saying, right? Because it seems that
Yeah.
there's only one legal entity that's advising all of these top projects, and really, it kind of comes down to what happens with that. So, not that we want to talk about some of the negative things, but FTX selling non-existent BTC makes my stomach hurt. And I mean, let me just share my screen super quick here, because there was something that I saw, and I was like, "What the hell is going on with this?" So. There is now credible concern about DCG and not just Genesis. This is potential to be a problem. The worst case is what this person said, my friend, but not my alt, outlined DCG goes bankrupt, Grayscale gets dissolved, 6 billion Bitcoin sell pressure, 3 billion of Ether pressure to sell on top of existing DCG fueled chaos. And I mean, just ultimately speaking here, it is terrifying to think if we have these really big conglomerates going down, what the hell does that mean? And I've seen some individuals on Twitter go and say, hey, if we crash, you have no idea how many people are then going to plow money into the ecosystem. And I can say from, my experience, I'm curious, Mo, for you, has there been many friends that have said, hey, like, I'm seeing crypto crash, I want to get in? I've had 2 friends, oddly enough, and I'm sitting here like, I'm not saying anything, but they reached out and they're like, hey, I know that you're into crypto. I'm actually thinking about getting into it with the market going down. And I mean, I don't know, as a new person getting into the space, I probably would have, never jumped in with that thought. So I'm curious, for your friends and family, have you had many discussions around it?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, first, about this liquidation news, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it has any merits to this, but I think, yeah, if this because of these risks, these liquidation risks, I think everyone's just waiting for some clarity, right? Like, no market likes uncertainty, so people would rather be sure of the fact that, okay, there is no risk, and sort of they want to see some stability before deploying capital. I feel like a lot of people are taking that approach, and no one's trying to sort of front run, and they're okay missing sort of the perhaps the original gains, if that means that they have clarity on where this all is going and that there is some stability. As far as friends, like real life friends go, first, that has been a remarkable indicator of like how the markets have performed. And it's so funny, Steve. So I tell this to people, but last year, um, during sort of like, I think it was in November, so like we were like in a sort of bull run, and it was all fun. I had my mom who constantly told me, she'd go grocery shopping, right? She'd come home, she'd be like, these prices are going through the roof. Like, something is going on. And here I am, with my understanding of macro stuff, and I'm like, oh no, it's just transitory stuff. Like, it happens. No, like, no need to worry. Like, it's just prices are going up temporarily. And it turns out, like, November was like the Pico top. I think if you look at the chart, I forget what it was. Is it November? Yeah, there you go. I think it's like the 22nd or 23rd. So like right then, and I was like, oh no, it doesn't matter. So that to say, what the masses think, the people who are detached from our space, is important to take into consideration, right? Like, it's not, it should not be the only sort of metric, but yeah. So that was, that's why I've always believed it's important to hear from real life, folks and friends, and many of them have not reached out to me yet. I have been the one who's been reaching out and said, like, hey, if this gets below 1K, you start to average for the long run. If BTC, same thing. But I haven't gotten those like, oh, did you see what happened today? Like, look at, like, sending pictures of extreme crashes. I haven't had that. How about you? I mean, you mentioned some of it, but I don't think we're just there yet, right?
Yeah, it's kind of funny though, because looking at this, it looks like we went below 1,000 on whatever the hell month that is. I'm bad at this.
Yep, June. Yeah.
But yeah, June. Okay, perfect. And it's not really touched there. But again, I'm curious, like, if we do see that kind of mass movement, if there is a pretty big liquidation move from some of these bigger players. But again, everyone's been talking about, hey, we want institutions in, and same with NFTs. Yo, that reminds me. Do you remember back in the day when people were like, yo, we can't wait until institution and VC money comes into NFTs, and now we're
Yeah.
like, no, go
Yeah.
away. We don't like it. Like there's no way that people that are collecting NFTs can be happy with any of this. But it's just funny the way that things have kind of progressed. Now, something I want to jump into here is Mekaverse. Do you remember when Mekaverse was like 15 ETH?
Who could not? That was crazy. Yeah, that when was this? Was it in does it have a date on it? It says November. I
Well,
think it was
so they have stuff coming out now though. So this is the
Really?
thing that I'm kind of confused about, because like I mean maybe Mekaverse actually used all that money and they end up becoming like a blue chip here. I don't know if there's audio on this. Can you hear any audio or no?
uh can't
No,
hear.
okay, cool. I'll just play this, but I mean, this looks incredible. Like the graphical components of it are amazing. I know that. I mean, when you think about everyone, we have the other side. We got BIAYO pills. We got Fluf World and Futureverse. There's a lot of people trying to do these different metaverses, but I mean, you know, at a quick glance from just a graphically cool scenario, I think this looks pretty legit.
It looks amazing, Steve, and I think it just like I think there's this bias that the market has, that it's just very difficult for projects that have failed to recover. Like it's just like I haven't seen many examples of projects that have had sort of like disastrous, like very sort of euphoric, over the top runs and have collapsed return from that. I mean, you can look at Mekaverse, you can look at cryptos. I mean, it's sort of different, but they also had that sort of very clear top there and never sort of came back. You can look at Gobblers recently. It's the same thing. So I think they might be doing some great stuff, but for them to recover just because of the baggage, it's just I feel it's nearly impossible. And I know I don't know what they have. This looks fantastic, but you know, at this point, there are 1,000 different projects chasing this same metaverse, these same metaverse plays. So if for something, an existing brand like this that had its day and is now sort of long forgotten and has no attention, and at the end of the day, we're in an attention economy, right? So if there's no attention, then it's probably, you know, it doesn't bode too well. But I'm surprised that they're still going. I thought they would be just far and done.
No, yeah. I mean, it's kind of cool to see that they do have some, but I'm curious how the market reacts. So for anyone that's tuning in that wasn't around back when Mekaverse originally minted, it was one of the most hyped up projects without question. And when it minted, they came out unrevealed, and the unrevealed price was between 6 to like 9-ish Ethereum. And again, this was back when, again, Ethereum was like 4K. So it was an absolute bag. And it was one of the first instances where you were able to kind of wait in line. It was kind of like an NBA Top Shot pack, I believe, if I remember correctly, where there was a chance you were going to be able to mint. And the people that did, like, people were hooked on NFTs simply from that aspect. And I mean, when we go back and we look at the highest last sale, there was one that was kind of egregious at like 500 WETH. Like, I mean, I don't know how legit that is. Probably not. But I mean, this one looks really cool. 125, 60, 50, 50, 45. The big problem that people had with this is that they thought they looked way too similar. Like, I mean, if you take it for just kind of what it is, I'm like, okay, these look, you know, neat. But when you really get down to the nitty gritty, is there really that much difference between this one, and this one, besides some coloring patterns? You know, not too much that way. But with them coming out with this trailer, I'm kind of curious. 5 hours ago, 7 hours ago, 13 hours ago, like, you know,
Yeah.
that's a pretty big, insane video for them to have, you know, what looks to be less than 30 sales at something that's 0.3.
Exactly. And I think this is like they can release something Titanic and it probably wouldn't move it either. I mean, it's just like it's like probably goes so far beyond the collection, and it's just a name that people are repelled by. I'm curious what happened. Like, if you look up Hape Beast, do you remember that? It
Oh,
was another one of these.
yeah,
Yeah,
we're
let's
going
look at
back.
that.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep, I remember. Was it Hape Prime?
yeah. I think that. Let's see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because this one also came out at like 5 to 6 ETH. It was Mekaverse levels for sure. And I mean, Hape, this has a higher floor price than Mekaverse, and I don't even get what this is.
Yeah. And you know, the funny thing is, I bet if you looked on their Twitter, they'll still be releasing stuff. and that it just doesn't matter anymore. It's just people are over it, and it just has a negative connotation. So it's like very, very, very tricky, even like for legit projects to come out of this. Like I know you're a fan of Deadheads, for example, which is another one of the old projects, legacy projects. And they have released episodes, right? Like they have released like constantly 5 or 6 episodes. I saw your video on that, but it's just it's the attention. It doesn't
Yeah,
have
yeah,
that sort
yeah.
of attention anymore.
Well, I see. So it's funny because I talked with him the other day. Because I asked him, I was like, "Yo, if I can get you just record a video of yourself, like talking about this, I'm just wanting to kind of, give
Yeah.
people insights on different NFTs that we've seen actually do stuff." And he was like, "Yeah, like we've been looking really hard into like what we can do better and like retain that attention. And really, that's what all of this is within the space." And speaking of attention, I don't know if you've seen the Adidas reveal the other day. But this was very much mixed signals for pretty much everyone. So I'm curious what your thoughts are on these. Is digital wearables going to become a huge thing? Do you think Adidas is doing well? I mean, that red coat there, I mean, I would never wear that in real life. Maybe in the metaverse, I don't know. But then there is Nike doing it better than Adidas.
Mhm. Yeah, so I don't know. So is this you can redeem whatever their NFTs are for this merch? Is that what it is?
So I think this was a part of the Adidas Into the Metaverse, which was a collaboration with G Money, Pixel Vault, Bored Ape Yacht Club, and I think that was it. And Adidas, and each one had like different rarities with it. So I need to go look it up. If there's anybody here watching too, feel free to educate me because I sold mine not too long ago and I haven't really paid attention to it.
Yeah.
Oh, hold on. Windtalker's got it.
Okay, let's see. It's the capsules that they burn to claim. Oh, I see.
Oh, okay. So yeah. So they had the Into the Metaverse, and then they airdrop these capsules, and I guess that's where what the use case for those capsules are. Also, that looks the DMT fur with the eyeballs. I don't know, not for me.
Yeah, to be honest, I haven't quite grasped the digital fashion movement yet. I mean, I know all these legacy brands are going heavily. To me, the most appealing digital fashion brand is what G Money is building with 9DCC. I think he is the one because he's crypto native, and usually a lot of the stuff that we value, the value is determined by like crypto native folks who agree with our beliefs, right? That's just how it is for the most part. So I think G Money's brand is probably, if I had to pick just one, that would probably be my pick. But I know, I mean, all of these legacy brands are probably gonna have these merch stuff. Yeah, if you go to you can just go to OpenSea and write. Yeah, maybe there are articles. I haven't even looked on Google. Oh yeah, there it is. Perfect. Yeah, look, there's a Vogue article. I didn't even know.
I mean, it's a black T-shirt, though. I'm like, look, listen, I know there's more to it. I know that there's more to it, but I'm like, if you're having like a flagship product, you want to kind of make a statement and like, okay, I get it. Maybe like clean is like the new look, but I'm like, if this is going for a bag, I don't know.
I'm with you. I am totally with you there. And yeah, the more to it part is, of course, that NFC chip technology. That's part of this shirt which Azuki released. Oh my! Do you have to subscribe for Vogue? Is that?
Yo, okay, so we got to buy these expensive digital wearables, but we can't even read the damn article because we got to subscribe for like $15.99. What the hell?
Like, but that's a good point. Like if Vogue releases an NFT which gives access to their website, that's utility, right? Those are probably some more things that we're gonna hopefully see and hopefully have pretty safe value. Yeah, if you write 9DCC, that should come up. Let's see. Yes, the second one, or I mean the first one.
Oh, I don't know what I'm doing. Hold on, we'll figure it out. 157. I mean, is that what the 4K airdrop voucher? 627. Is that it, or is that a scam collection?
Yes. No. This is it. But these have already been redeemed. So if you want to look at the redeemed shirts, if you just go back to the OpenSea search tab, I think it's the second one that came up. The
vaulted.
Yes, I think that's the one that. Yep.
Oh, I gotcha.
Yep. So like they're all different kinds of sizes, and the good thing
they
is
look the what? They look the same.
They're the same.
Okay.
They're the same. It's just the name. It's like funny. Like it's just like the name, right? That matters. And they have their second launch coming up at Art Basel, and that is with Snowfro. We know if anything, if Snowfro is involved with anything, even if it's a T-shirt, it's going to do really well. So
Well,
it's just
okay,
a
so
new.
I want to talk about that though. Do we have a problem? And for anyone tuned in right now, I'm really curious your thoughts because earlier when we started, if you missed it, we talked a little bit about how Yuga, hey, is this empire being created? Is this good or bad? And I mean, all these big names are getting attached to things, but I don't know if that necessarily means that it's going to be, the top tier, or if everything's going to be a hit and everybody's kind of just chasing that next big thing.
Mhm. Yeah, so yeah, so you were basically saying if, if whether big names being associated with stuff is what gives them the value. Yeah, I think that totally. Like it's like all about mimetic theory. Like if people like something enough, then you start to like it. That's just how things, generally how things work. And with these names, especially these artists, they have such they have such huge names that really, if they partner with anything, is just right out of the gate, just amazingly well. So it's all about the names behind products. That's why, like for these, for the 90cc shirts, I don't, if I don't really like how they look, but it's just I get what he's building and the vision. That's really I guess the attractive part.
It's so weird to see how people like continue to be able to create these, big giants of different things within the NFT space. And I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
Snowfro with his connections to art blocks and everything that's being
Mhm.
created there is massive. And I think that it's just
Yeah.
wild kind of to watch overall. Now, listen, I want to jump back over to the crypto discussion here because I think that we are people that used to react in a very euphoric way to announcements where Polygon has literally announced everything under the sun. And I tweeted about this the other day where it's like, hey, Polygon seems to have literally everybody in their back pocket in terms of IP. And sure, there could be other people that, join up, similar to how we've seen with the NBA, where they've partnered with multiple different projects with NBA Top Shot, So Rare. The list goes on for different ideas. But why are we not seeing Polygon absolutely go to the moon with all these big happenings and announcements? Is it because the products aren't out yet? Is it because the euphoricness doesn't really happen anymore? Were people overvaluing things in the bull run before? What's your thoughts on why Matic's not kind of doing better here?
Yeah, no, so I think Matic is fantastic. Yeah, I think I Wind Talker, liquidity drying up and people want number to go up. Totally agree. It's like I'm a fan of Warren Buffett, and he has this quote where it says, interest rates act like gravity on stocks. So you can have a company that is doing amazingly well and hitting everything, but because of external factors like interest rates, it's just harder. It's like pulling it down. There's like this larger invisible hand pulling everything down. And that's probably the case here with Matic as well. But totally a huge fan of everything that they're doing. And I don't know if you had a chance to look at or even just participate in the Reddit avatars. I completely missed when those things came out, the first ones, but like they did really well, and that's all thanks to the Polygon network. That's that they hosted them. Um, so like as long as they continue, and maybe I think the Starbucks program is the next sort of big project they have coming up. So all they need to do is keep doing that stuff, and the prices will take care of themselves over time. I mean, we just can't predict where they'll be in 2 or 3 months, right? But over time, like in a year, they'll be higher probably. There, you know. Oh, Crypto Slam.
I'm
That's such a
yeah.
throwback. Yeah,
I love the site. It's got all the good stuff here. I mean, NFT
yeah.
buyers are down 7%. There's apparently 25,000 of us. Global markets were at basically $15 million, down 11%. Top sales, for anyone that was on Twitter, you've probably seen this. I guess there was a freshly made wallet that ended up throwing in basically almost $1 million into it, bidding on a whole bunch of different NFTs. Somebody immediately took the offer
Yeah.
for this Trippy Ape, which is interesting to see. Azuki is holding up so freaking well. Like I'm sitting here like maybe I don't get it. Maybe I'm a fish. I don't know. But it seems that Azuki, everything they do, the whales just go nuts for it.
Mhm. Yeah, no, 100%. Azuki has proven people wrong. There was that whole period a few months ago where the founder FUD and all of that, but they have bounced and recovered because of the community, really, right? Like people just wouldn't let them go. There's just very niche and niche culture that's developed around it. And if I had to pick a PFP collection beyond the Yuga Labs ecosystem, it would definitely be Azuki in terms of risk reward. I was a huge fan of Moonbirds when they launched, but it is really my thesis didn't really work out as I expected. I mean, I think they are becoming more of like a VFriends type brand in terms of like their access and utility. It's like very sort of in-person heavy and art heavy, which is wonderful, right? And I don't mean to demean the projects, right? I'm just very sort of
Oh yeah, for sure,
regular,
for sure.
yeah, regular trader. So I like look at, I'm mostly concerned about the prices. So yeah, I think Azuki is poised for success. And Moonbirds, I think they have a lot to prove, and I'm curious to see what they'll have. Well, they've told us what they'll have next year, when they'll have sort of this new Mythics collection and Proof Coin. But it's just the way that the announcements are made that sort of takes out a lot of speculation, and speculation is oxygen for NFT prices. So Zuki is just a perfect amount. They know how to do it perfectly. Just give a little bit of tiny bits and just release stuff without any announcements, and just sort of know how to build a sort of a culture around it.
So Windtalker, with the COO thing, like I remember there was some people when they made that announcement that were pissed because they had different brand deals that were out. So similar to like Pixel Vault, where I was able to have my ape within their comic, that was IP rights. There's been some other things that have been talked about behind the scenes. I'm trying to think of other people that have done this quite successfully, but I mean, Kiki, another elite ape who's doing kind of her own murals and doing different partnerships there. You do have this kind of cool area where you do see different entrepreneurs trying to do things. And with Moonbirds, I think that similar to VFriends, that was a great reference, by the way, Mo. Like, I think that was awesome because I think a lot of VFriends fans, collectors, whatever, are also entrepreneurs in their own right. Maybe not all of them, but I think a good conglomerate are they're like, hey, I really value what Gary V has because he's given really solid advice and he's been successful within business, where a lot of people would look at Kevin Rose and I think say the exact same thing. And that's one of the reasons why they got into it, because they're like, hey, there's more access to him. I can get behind the scenes. I can maybe learn a little bit more about how to make my business better. So when they made that and they were like, hey, everyone can just use anything, it doesn't really matter anymore, like there was a lot of people that were super pissed, and that was really the catalyst that started bringing Moonbirds down. So, well, I'm curious, is there any extra thoughts you had when Moonbirds made that decision?
Yes, so I was initially, I think CCO as a theory is great, and it's like I get the mission behind it, and it wouldn't have been bad at all if they had said it from the start. If they launched as a CCO collection, I think it would have been no problem. And but it's just really, I think the downfall, you're right, is really started when they made that announcement. It's because um, when you bet on people, there is a risk, and that is if there's any sort of semblance that there's no longer a trust, that you can't trust them, or that they're going back on their word, then that's sort of the downside of investing into in NFTs because of the people, is that if they make sort of a poor decision, then that's then there goes the thesis. So I think, yeah, that it was just that the trust aspect, people just lost some trust there because it wasn't mentioned from the start. If it had been from the start, it would have been not a problem, because you're buying with that information available. But yeah, as far as, I think they still have work to do in terms of the building this into a cultural brand. Moonbirds is not a it's not a cultural brand at the moment like Azuki is. So they need to do a lot more with that. So I think they'll also release some marketing stuff. I know Kevin Rose has hinted at that. So I want to see what partnerships they're talking about. And Oddities as well. Yeah, they've been there. That's some Grumplin art. I don't know if you have Oddities, Steve, or what you think of them. How they look?
I mean, so to be honest, I was really excited at first when I was like, oh, okay, like we have a new variation of like Moonbirds or something, and I thought Cryptodes were really cool, but it just like, maybe I'm wrong with this, but it didn't really feel like it was the Moonbirds type of level. Now, saying that out loud, I'm kind of like, okay, if we have moonbirds, we have like these rodents, these oddities that are going to eat, or the moonbirds are going to eat them. And it's like, okay, like I can kind of see the reference to it, but there is that kind of level of, hey, we kind of expecting to see something that maybe is a little bit more clean, where for Bored Ape Yacht Club with the mutants, right? People are like, oh yeah, weird walls, bathroom, yada, yada, yada. And it was kind of brought up with that weird notion where I don't think Moonbird's ever had that kind of weird notion attached. It was like, hey, I just want to be a professional.
Yes, exactly. And like, yeah, like if you look at mutants, they're like oddities in that like they're not, the best of art, but people it's just because of the ecosystem. And about oddities, I mean, the other thing that caught people off guard was it was just for when it launched, it was just for an art, like as an art collection. There was no utility, nothing. And then people said, hey, that's not fair. And then they have a lot of back and forth, which is responsible for these, which is why they've done poorly. But if going into the future, I had to pick Oddities or Moonbirds, as far as the risk reward, I think Oddities is much better because they'll also be eligible for that Mythics collection that's going to come out next month.
So, Mo, I'm curious for you and for anyone watching in the chat. Bored Ape Yacht Club did this interesting thing with mutants where they had. I want to say there was like 10, might be a little bit more, maybe a little bit less for these like mega mutants. And I think that it was one of like the coolest things at the time because I don't know how many other collections had that. And obviously BAYC really kind of blew up in popularity. But I think that just those were kind of the definitive, hey, if you want to be the top member in this club, or this is like the grail of the grails, I think that aspect's really, really cool. But I don't think we've seen too many other collections kind of follow that pattern. So I'm curious, just everybody's thought in general. Do you like that? Do you want to see that from other collections moving forward? And I know we're focusing on the art and we're waiting for NFTs that have a little bit more than art, but just for kind of the fun discussion here, what do you think? Would you rather everybody being kind of on the same playing field, or do you like having some of these, mega ultra rares?
Yeah, I mean, I'm also curious to see what people think, but I'm part of NFTs is that sort of rarity. It's rarities in sort of any collectible field is what gives that thrill, right? It's like it makes NFTs non-fungible. So I totally think that it was the right thing to do. And when you see these large sales in any collection, it's just more of a confirmation to people like, oh my goodness, if someone like, we saw that trippy sale you mentioned earlier today, and it's like people, it tells people, okay, this is not going anywhere, right? Like someone's paying $1 million for it. So whether or not that person, what the intentions are, it's the signaling aspect that's important with these large sales. And I think it was the perfect, like these are the perfect marketing and development things that Yuga does really well. It's just they have these mega sort of reveals and they hype them up. It's just sort of the perfect combination of marketing and execution. Oh, and then GCG, yeah, that's another one.
Listen, we got to jump into this because this was one of the collections that first came out, for anyone that doesn't know, like right after Bored Ape Yacht Club. Like I'd want to say within a month, maybe even like 2-3 weeks, if that. Maybe it was a little bit longer, but it was something that people were hyped up for. And then it felt like kind of out of nowhere, these just rocketed to like 16th after, doing relatively well. And I don't know why. Every time I go on social media, there's some kind of drama going on with this, even though they have cool events. They've sponsored basketball teams. Their token delay is what I actually want to talk about, though, because when we're coming to the end of Q4, and earlier we talked about, what's going to happen with the delays, them delaying. Do you think that was because of the SEC investigation, or do you think Gutter Cat Gang was like, market shit, we're waiting, we're not doing it right now?
Yeah, no, that's to be honest, I don't follow this ecosystem closely, so I don't know. I do know about the token that they delayed it. What surprises me about this is how they're still 2.78. That's the surprising part, and like that is like those are the things that are inexplicable by traditional metrics. This is the community that's holding it up, right?
This is the community.
Yes. And it's those 10,000 people there is to it that are just like, nope, we just believe that we're just gonna hold on to them. And that's like, and there are collections like that where it's like, I mean, this is utility collection, so I shouldn't compare it. I was going to compare it to like Pudgy Penguins. which is like another collection that reminds me of this in terms of like the community that's really been holding it up, despite, they still have some utility and some central team. But these collections are just, I'm very surprised, and I don't follow the ecosystem closely, but I definitely think that SEC investigation sort of rebooted everyone. There's like, okay, let's just make sure we do everything the right way. So there's and the market's hurting, so let's delay it. Why not?
And
Oh, yeah.
Wind Talker, very good point. This. I don't know if you've seen this earlier. Wait, hold on. No, sorry, it wasn't Pudgy. It was Sappy Seals. Unless they also did it. But yeah, they got a partnership with Kellogg's, and in the video itself,
it might have been Pudgy. Or maybe
yeah, because well, so there's a video. Yeah. So here's a video, and let me pause it. Okay, pop quiz. People watching, Mo, what are the shadows of everything that's in this video right now?
Oh man, that's really tough. What's the first thing? How can you possibly? It looks like a ball. I mean, oh no, it has the hat. I don't know what you call the propeller hat. I can't tell the first one. The second one's an ape. The next one's a goblin. The next one seems like a seal. Might be a subduck at the end.
Yo, yeah, you're right. I never even realized that. I think that's subduck. Bored ape, goblin, yo, Narmak. Okay, bet. Okay, does anybody know what the hell the one on the left is?
It's Wind Talker, or is it seal for the one on the left? I think the one that I don't know. Let's see. Oh wow.
So this was posted on like the Sappy Seals Twitter, but apparently it was some of the other ones too. Wait, hold on. I should pause that on the end. Cool. Yeah, it looks sweet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think like these small collaborations, like I think these are wonderful things that these projects are doing. But at the end of the day, for me, as someone, it's the first one, Kevin. That's good.
Dude.
I don't know. Can you see it, Steve? I don't know.
I have no idea.
Okay.
Yo, the Breakfast Club. Okay, let's go. Hold on. We were saying for that. Maybe it's one of like their own brands. Okay, that was November 16th. Wait, is this it? Meet the team. There was a whole lot going on there.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah.
Here, let me hold on a second. Let me see if I can share this with audio. Give me a second. Remove. Yeah, sure. Stop screen. Present. Share screen. Share system audio. Oh, I'm gonna have to mute myself for this, but that's okay.
Okay. I'll let you know if I can hear it. Yep, I can.
Did you get that? I'm Jordan Baruki. I'm the co-founder of the Breakfast Club. Our goal is to educate with influential people that know the space.
What's up? I'm Ryan Xavier Lewis. I'm the founder of Anonymous and the co-founder of the Breakfast Club. Web3 is new to people. IP is familiar. The Breakfast Club is a community, as a place where people can go to share their dreams and get them accomplished in the Web3 world.
I was talking to one of my really good friends who's a part of this project now. Her name's Roz Goldon-Wude. And she kept telling me about all the amazing success stories she's had.
When I heard about the Breakfast Club, I was totally aligned with the ethos of let's educate.
The reason really why I got involved is the education component. We know that there's been an information gap that has led to the wealth gap. And a big part of shifting that is through going into communities and saying, we're going to help you get there.
We're going to be educating people on DAOs, crypto, NFT, the marketplace, other projects. We're going to tell people how to download a wallet, what types of cryptocurrency you can use, how do you buy an NFT.
The community helps because it also creates an environment for us to feel safe, to be able to grow together and to network.
So I don't care where you are, where you're from, you want to be that project that unites people and brings them in front of the space.
Come learn with us, come rock our merch, come be a part of this community that we're building.
yeah, educate yourself and read, but the next step is just get in.
The Breakfast Club will teach people what the Web3 world is and how to benefit from it.
This project gives you access to utility that you can show off and wear to show that you're part of something special.
We have varsity jackets, we have cereal boxes, we have hoodies, IRL events. Utility is here to be an onboarding ramp into this Web3 community.
When you bring a Web2 brand like Kellogg's into the Web3 space, you have an opportunity to onboard millions. But when you're onboarding people in Web3, you have a responsibility. You can't just rely on nostalgia or speculation. That's a recipe to get wrecked. If you give a first-time NFT buyer a bad experience, they may not stick around. If that happens, what was the point? You need to provide real utility. You need to put something of value in their hands. You need to show them what it means to own a digital asset. You got to make it real. That's what we're doing at the Breakfast Club.
Wonderful. Can't hear you, Steve, just letting you know.
Is there like massive feedback when I talk, or am I okay?
You're perfect. Sounds
Yeah,
wonderful.
okay, lit.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, so we eat cereal and we ARF. Proud to announce newest partner, Sappy Seals. Scrolling down again, there's Sappy Seals. Oh, okay, so they just have the same video again but for
Okay.
each one.
Yeah. Same characters. Okay. Yeah, that's the pudgy one. Yeah.
I mean, so like, is it weird? I mean, when we talk about the empire and everything, like, if this includes, wait, is it what? Why is her first tweet on the 16th? What
Yeah.
did this just get formed? What the hell?
I think so. And I love the mission. I mean, if it's anything about educating people about fundamental things like downloading wallets and stuff, that's wonderful stuff. I mean, and that I think there is a huge place, huge opportunity for that. I just am not familiar with the breakfast. This is the first time that I'm really.
I got no idea.
Yeah.
I got no idea. Okay, so one of the things that I wanted to jump into was for the other deeds, where here we can see that they have sales volume of 1.1 million, higher than a ton of other projects here, including Mutant Ape Yacht Club, which for some might be a little strange. But then for Gods Unchained as well, it's in the top 10. And the reason for this is because Looks Rare Rewards are pumping out tokens basically for people that list other deeds and some of these other like top collections, but Other Deeds seems to be the one. So it's suppressing the price, where at the same time for Gods Unchained, the volume for it is so high because they are doing immutable X rewards for that, where we're kind of having this marketplace battle. But I gotta say, like, the problem that I'm seeing is that there seems to be an infinite amount of marketplaces where now like Blur is involved, right? And I would argue that Blur is now taking a good share of the cake, right? But we have Looks Rare, we have X2Y2, which seems to be the go-to for private sales. We still have OpenSea, and obviously Immutable X is kind of its own marketplace. But you know, if we go back into a bull run, how ridiculous or how stupid do you think some of these marketplace rewards are going to get to try to incentivize buyers and collectors to use their marketplace over others?
Yeah. Well, first, these marketplace rewards have definitely have their downside in terms of price suppression. We've seen a lot of that over the past few weeks, where you have collections that have launched, and because of Blur as well. I mean, you have to list for rewards, and a lot of people are sort of farming in that way. And it just like, I think the average NFT collection has 3 times the listings as it did prior to Blur rewards and Looks Rare rewards. Yeah, so what we're seeing now as a result, and I can tell you there were 2 projects that launched today that didn't have Blur, that didn't enable Blur listings and sales. It was entirely OpenSea. So increasingly, projects are sort of picking and choosing marketplaces, and I think that's the trend. It's likely to continue. Whichever one incentivizes or is aligned with whatever the project believes in, that's where they'll go to. And I think I mean, competition is good generally, right? Like we need this competition to see, which one is most suitable to us as the users. But yeah, I think in terms of price suppression, very much evident, and projects are taking note, and they're blacklisting marketplaces for sure. Yeah, Looks right. Crazy.
Holy sugar. What
Yeah.
in the hell happened? My God. Okay,
Yeah.
so oh
I mean,
my
like,
God.
that's why I wonder, like, how, I mean, I guess I don't know what the rewards are, right? Like, I mean, if it's trading at 13, I mean, at 13 cents, it
Yeah,
really
so I
depends
mean,
on
like,
how
so
much.
the other dude's 360. So I mean, like, I'm not good at
Oh,
math, but what? That's like $36.
yeah, that's pretty good. That's like, yeah, just for listing, right? I mean, if it's like, I guess you have to use gas to list,
Yo, what's
but
up, yo, Jeremy? Dude, I can't, like, I'm like, this is shell shocking because I mean, what were the narratives that were going around that, Lava, you're great. But what were the narratives around like Looks Rare when it first came out? Because I mean, kind of similar to like the Valhalla mint, and I made like a YouTube video earlier just talking about how like it seems weird that the founder for that, and we can get into it in a second, but it's an upcoming mint. They're doing their own streaming platform and they're wanting to create a brand that's for gamers. One of the critiques is that it looks like Azuki and a lot of the other ones, but I mean, the person who's the founder has had a lot of success. Forbes like 30 under 30, et cetera, et cetera. But I mean, looking back to Looks Rare, it was the same thing, right? It was like, hey, Dingaling and all these big collectors are an investor in it. You guys should use it on top of, hey, here's some like absolutely unbelievable rewards, which people got into. And then it was the, question of, okay, when the unlock happened for those angel investors, what then was to proceed. And I don't think there was like a big drop off after that unlock happened, but just over time, it seems that Looks Rare wasn't able to keep that momentum. So curious, Mo, and for anyone in the chat as well, what do you remember back when Looks Rare was kind of like the marketplace for a little bit?
Yeah, I forget what like their big premise was at the time, right? It definitely didn't have anything to do with royalties. We were way behind. We just started on that discussion. That is pretty recent. I forget what their main thing was, but yeah, I think the unlocks definitely had a huge impact, and a lot of sort of. I think the rise was. I think at the moment, it was like a big airdrop. Like we were dying for an airdrop, and then Looks Rare happened. People are like, oh my, okay, this is gonna be it. This is it. Oh yeah, I think the narrative was, this was the narrative. They were like, OpenSea is 10 billion in revenue. Do you not think Looks Rare can capture 10% of that?
Yo,
Ocean.
NFT God,
Yeah.
yes, that's what it was.
Yeah.
If you get the volume, you want to make the volume, you get paid, baby.
Yes, you're right.
Nice.
Totally. That's a good catch up, NFT God. You're totally right. And a question for you, Steve. Do you think the blur chart is going to look similar to this?
Oh my God. I mean,
I have
for
a
Blur,
feeling
let
it
me.
might.
Yeah, so I remember for Blur that they've said that you want to do, and I don't think it's on their site, but they said that you wanted to do 3 sweeps at some point on their platform before the next airdrop. They said the airdrop is happening in November as well. So let's take a peek here. So Blur token airdrop number 2 coming November. The more you list, the more you earn. Airdrop 2 will be much bigger and will be delivered to traders who actively list on Blur. Higher loyalty increases your rarity luck significantly, and then you can learn more. I don't really have a whole lot of points on there, but that's okay. So how it works, in order to prevent gaming the system, we are not specifying an explicit formula for airdrop 2, but here are some tips on how to maximize your airdrop. The more you list, the more you earn. Listing blue chips helps. I thought we retired that term, but okay, here we are. Listing more active collections helps, and I believe it's top 200 or top 500.
Not sure about that.
I think for like the collections of what gets placed, because if you look up certain collections, they won't show, but other ones do, and I think it's got to be like within like the top 200 or 500 for trading. Use all our listing tools. You can list by floor price, trade floor price, and ladder list. Don't try to game the system, constantly relisting NFTs at unrealistic prices. Symbol attacking or listing dead collections. We will conduct extensive analysis to weed out traders with unnatural listing activities. I would love to see the data on that. I feel like there's got to be some account that's just trying to milk that shit. Yeah. With that said, if you just list naturally on Blur, you'll be fine. Don't forget that you can list also on other marketplaces through Blur. You have nothing to lose and many care packages to gain by using Blur. And then they have some different stuff on here. But yeah, it looks pretty good. Yo, Quad, how are you? My guy. How are we? NFT God also Looks Rare were the first to all you submit a bid to all NFTs in a collection. Oh, that's cool. I didn't realize that. That is neat. But yeah, I mean, like, have you used Blur? Like, I mean, and again, for anyone in the chat, have you guys used Blur much? Have like kind of done it, but not really.
Yeah, I have been actively using it. And yeah, it's great. Coinbase.
Coinbase.
Are you referring to the Coinbase?
Well, I mean,
market?
Coinbase was supposed to have their own like NFT marketplace.
Oh, yeah,
like,
right.
but I mean, does that even exist?
Yes, it exists, but I
Okay,
think
like
the volumes last I checked were like, I don't even know, like 1 ETH maybe. That's being generous. But yeah, Blur is so yeah. I think the actual token is next year in January, but they'll have the second airdrop, which is sometime this month. But yeah, I have been using it, and yeah, it's it really is nice to use. I feel no one can take that away. There is a lot of shilling, but it really is. If it wasn't a good platform, I think it'd be clear. There's still, and they're like, and I've spoken to Pac-Man, and he seems wonderful. I mean, he's really some like, intelligent guy. He knows, yeah. And NFT God says they're doing incentives to be in raffles for things if you use it. What do you mean by that? Do you mean like what are the incentives for the raffles?
it's probably maybe it's like other NFTs or something. Well, okay, so I mean, we've seen some collections, and I think that it's kind of interesting that they're like trying to incentivize people to hold by giving like their own ecosystem reward points, where it's like, hey, Schiller's NFT, if you hold this and every week you get X amount of tokens, and then you're able to use, those tokens to maybe buy a Pudgy Penguin, but it's way the hell up there in like Schiller tokens or whatever. Do you have any thoughts on those specific kind of collections? Because I'm curious where, it feels like they're trying to transition from, hey, we're just kind of like an art project to having utility, but it also feels like it's, I don't know if like disingenuous is the right term, but.
And you're still referring to Blur, right?
Sorry, like I just mean like NFT collections as a whole. Sorry, not necessarily marketplaces, but some of the collections are like doing their own marketplace themselves with like their own token, but it's a lot smaller scale.
Yeah, it's interesting. So part of this concept that you mentioned with using tokens to be able to buy stuff, I think that's going to be pretty big. The one thing I like. All these projects, they see how previous token launches have done, and they see these charts where they're going down and to the right. So they need to change that somehow. And I know, like, I can speak about the proof ecosystem because I know it a little bit, more than perhaps other collectors. But part of what Kevin Rose has mentioned is when they launch this proof token, it will be a way, like you'll. There you go. We're giving you ideas here. Yeah. But unmute. You're on mute.
Yo, facts. I'm muted. Sorry. You guys are great.
Yeah. But yeah, I think increasingly so, we're going to be able to use our tokens to purchase stuff. And Kevin Rose mentioned this with the proof token, for example, is you'll get your proof token, and let's say you attend an event, you'll get some proof token, and you're like, hey, I want to buy a Chromie Squiggle with all of this proof token that I've accumulated, and you put it to that use.
Chromie Squiggle. Yo, this man's going for the jugular.
You had to mention squiggles in an NFT talk, but yeah, so I think that very, very common, it's going to be sort of using their native tokens for purchases totally as one way to prevent, I guess, selling pressure.
Yeah. So listen, we got to talk about this. So the swoosh.com.swoosh, if you type that in, it comes up. It's Nike's new platform that's kind of, I guess, like in tandem to what Artifact is doing. Like, is everybody just like sleeping on Artifact and they're trying to think that somebody's going to do bigger than what Nike is, or that they're like, oh, this is a corporation, they're not going to, oh, we're scared of VCs because we're NFT and we're like Web3? Like, I don't know, because it feels like everything that Artifact does is top quality. Sure, not everybody might love certain things, or I don't love the certain shoe or whatever, but it seems that they just deliver quality after quality.
Agreed, totally. I think people also might suffer a little bit from the fact that they have so many collections. Like if you go on their website, they have like 10, 15 collections that you can look at. But as far as their face, like the brand, the Clonex collection is like sort of the PFP of the Artifact ecosystem. And I think it's one of those 5 blue chips that we talked about. That is probably the only those 5 blue chips. It's one of them where you can, probably just like, best that I would be leaving offers on to, to get into. And yeah, like they've held up really well for their 20K collection. And these are the mint files. Yeah, let's see how the.
I mean, so the mint vials are double the price of what a Clone X is, which is
Yeah.
kind of spicy.
Here's an idea for you, Steve. Maybe someday you got to pull in, just open a mint file and you get the rarest Murakami DNA.
If the Fluf World pops off, maybe we'll look at that. And I mean, actually here, hold on. So NFT God, let's go to this one. So last comment, Gem versus Blur. I mean, so Gem is like an aggregator that I'm pretty sure is like or was bought by OpenSea, where Blur is its own marketplace. So I don't know if we can necessarily compare them just because one's kind of like a sweeping tool, or one is actually no. Hold on a second. Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself here because Gem.xyz. Yeah, so it's like an aggregator overall. I was looking at how many for the Fluf World thing. Rare Pass Genesis. Why is that not on Crypto Slam? That's interesting. But I mean, I don't ever think of like looking at Gem unless I'm wanting to sweep something where I would like go to Blur to like look at things and get like extra statistics from it. Not that this doesn't provide it, but I think that if I'm going to pick the two, I guess I would pick Blur. Mo, any thoughts?
I would at the moment. I would pick. And you said you pick Blur, right? Did I hear that right? Okay, yeah, same. I would agree. So on Gem, you can't sweep Blur listings. There are no Blur listings on Gem. So and most of the volume is on Blur. So you'll probably get better prices if you sweep on Blur just because of that. But also Blur doesn't have pseudo swap. But pseudo swap's usage has gone down since the rise of Blur. So I think all in all, Blur is the best one. And plus you get these airdrop eligibilities.
I love it. So wait, hold on. Where were we? Oh, so for Clone X here, I mean, we talked about the top dog for the mutants, right? Where it was kind of cool that they had some of these ones that weren't available in any other kind of fashion. I mean, Clone X absolutely killed that fashion, where I don't necessarily think that overall you think, okay, these ones are far and above completely different than the Mega Mutants, because some of the traits are the same. As you can see right here, the head's the same. For the mouth trait, some of it is the same, but at the same time, they're wild. You got Takashi Murakami associated with it. Apparently, Post Malone is now doing something that's a collab with them, and I mean, if you're going to pick, and I'm curious for the chat too, would you go Mega Mutant or would you go Grail Clone X here?
That's a good question. Yeah, I'm curious to hear. I mean, I think it's just the supply of these. I don't know what the supply is of some of these rare ones. I think there are many, many more rare Clone X's than there are mutants. So in that sense, I just have to go with mutants. But some of these are crazy.
Yo, Dozo, listen, that's not the answer we provided, but it's the answer that we needed. Facts.
Yes.
Yo, Aaron, you're going for the Mega Mutant Yuga name, true. And I mean, like, what's the possibilities for Yuga? Like, I that might sound like kind of a stupid question, right? But realistically, like, how high is the ceiling for it? Like, is it going to be just similar to how we're seeing it's going to be all over cereal boxes? There's going to be music festivals. There's going to be TV shows. We're going to be in the theater watching a new Yuga movie every single year. Like, is that what we're expecting? Or do you think, calm the expectations, Schiller?
All of the above. Well, but yeah, I think, I think as far as the ceiling for these large NFT projects, it's truly uncapped. And I mean, and at the moment things are very dark, and who knows how long they'll be that way. But I in every sort of they will try to pierce through sort of like every avenue they can. They've already started to pierce through the cultural brands. I mean, we've watched Yuga on the VMAs, right? Like everyone, I think even my real life friends, it's the one collection that they know of. Like if I say NFTs, they'd be like, oh, those apes. So I think they've already done that. The other big avenue is gaming. And that's where many, many projects, everyone's trying to scratch the surface and really try to just penetrate and get that market. And I think that's probably the next thing that they'll focus on is with the other side.
So speaking of games, I've talked about Gilded Guardians in the past, but apparently there is like a ton of tokens that were locked up with the Almeida thing with FTX. So let's assume that those tokens are locked up with whatever the hell they're doing and they haven't liquidated them yet. And we don't know if those tokens are lost forever or potentially going to get dropped in the market at any point.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter what collection it is, but what would you do if you were holding a token in that situation?
And I would say that's exactly what's happening with ETH at the moment, right? Like that's exactly the state we're in with ETH is you have, let's say we talked about that or tweet earlier, where you have 3 billion in ETH potentially, right? And it's like a far-fetched thing at this point if they were to get liquidated. But that's the situation, precarious situation we're in, is like you take it with ETH, is there's the possibility of all this supply coming into the market. So I think it's not any different. And at this point, in addition to the crypto specific these crypto specific events, I think the larger markets are going to take over soon as far as the driving force of where things are going. And in my opinion, things are not the markets. I mean, I don't think they hold. Like we're definitely going to see a recession next year. Like all signals point to that. And given where people are projecting stocks to be and what they're be, they are far from where they usually are in recessions. Like things are going to go down, and when the macro market is in the driver's seat, then I think that's when we finally break the strength that we've been having for so long.
The strength. And I mean, one thing, talking a little bit about strength here, Cool Cats, one of the top collections that we've seen over the past 2 years. I mean, their cool pet drop was about half of what their current floor is, which is wild to think about. Obviously, there was a lot of rumors about things of, hey, the game didn't go as well as they thought. Why didn't they just go and pursue the Paper Cats, which was this collection that apparently they wanted to do where you could buy like a cool cat or this paper cat that was like $5 and really onboard all these people. And everyone was like, these guys aren't game builders, yada, yada. But the team still really stuck through with things. And there was a announcement earlier in Mint today, specifically regarding Cool Cats X1 football. So it seems that if I understand this correctly, that there is like another platform that's coming out that's doing sports moments. But let's go over this because I've not really dived in. But this is also with Animoca Brands. So what is Cool Cats FC? Cool Cats FC Football Club is a collection of 4,000 NFTs created by Cool Cats, Animoca Brands, and One Football Labs. The collection seeks to gather the Cool Cats community and football fans globally to celebrate the world's largest football event. How does it work? Holders of the Cool Cats FC will own a dynamic NFT representing one of the 32 playing countries in the tournament. When teams advance to the round of 16, quarterfinals, semifinals, final, and ultimate championship, the Cool Cats FC NFTs associated with these teams will evolve and mark the team's progression. When teams advance, holders of those teams' NFTs will also get a chance to qualify for a range of rewards, including game-worn and signed merchandise, once-in-a-lifetime IRL experiences, and digital collectibles. In addition, everyone is eligible to participate in community-led events in the Cool Cats FC Discord channel to earn rewards as well. So, I mean, quick thoughts here. Game-worn signed merchandise for the World Cup. Like, how hard is that to come by? Like, are we sleeping on that partnership? Because that feels insane to me.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, yeah, I don't know how they have the connections for sure. I think that's part of what came with the new leadership team that they have. But if you look at the mint price, Steve, I don't know if it's mentioned here. It's pretty. Yeah, let's see, 0.069. Yeah, that's kind of on the higher end for what this market can stand. At the moment, this market can only take free mints. But they're doing wonderful stuff. Like I said, I always speak from a trader's perspective, so I don't want to demean Cool Cats, right? I think their team is great. But from that perspective, it's like, thank you, Holly. I don't know if that's good or bad.
I think it's good. But
okay, that's good. Okay, thank you. But I was going to say, anything that's seasonal has never worked well, in my opinion. I mean, the World Cup is a huge event, but for me, if anything seasonal, sort of Halloween based. I mean, look at the Halloween drops that happened a couple of weeks ago. I can't remember a single one, and it's same thing happened last year. So like this, and the World Cup is a seasonal event, and given that the Cool Cats ecosystem is not doing well, like for me, something like the risk reward would not be there unless this was a free mint. Of course, that's cool, and maybe like the winning teams cards are valuable to some, but as far as like the dirty flipper like myself, I would stay away.
The dirty flipper. Yo, so speaking of dirty flipping, I want to bring up a YouTube video that I did earlier today. And for anyone that's not checking me out on YouTube, please do so, because I'm trying to really post a whole bunch of content. I did a less than 2-minute video on the Valhalla mint. So you might not have heard about it, but I want to play this and just kind of get your opinions and anybody in the chat afterwards. So guys, sit back, relax, and let me know once we're done here. Yo, what's up? Let's talk about Valhalla. It's been all the rage on Twitter, so let's deep dive into what exactly it is. The mint price being the main category of people wondering what in the hell, because it's at 0.5 Ether, which equals $600 US. However, there are some immortal members that are able to mint for 0.35 Ether, which ends up being $417. Immortal members are people who are granted early allocation. And even before that, there was a pre-sale bid for 0.25 ETH where they're forced to hold for 3 months. There's 3 phases for the mint. The first one is only available to Immortal and Allegiant members, and Allegiant members are ones who applied for the mint and then got accepted. That's happening on the 22nd, and then phase 2 is on the 23rd for everyone who bid on the Valhalla pre-sale. And then phase 3 is just later on in that day for everyone who registered for the public mint. Now, the strange thing is that the art reveal is roughly 2 weeks after the mint, and we know that they've already raised $16 million previously, so it seems kind of odd. Now, on the topic of odd things, the founder themselves talked about how the project is aiming to be the next blue chip, and then also touting some notable collectors who's collected their collection. They also show collector demand and showing kind of like in a pre-mint that it was at a discounted rate and that they were 33% oversubscribed. And their primary sale is going to be 9,000, and they're going to do a daily auction starting in Q1 of 2023 for another 1,000. One every day, just like the Nouns collection. Now, I wish them all the success in the world with their mint, but it does seem kind of a little bit odd of them, you know, instead of having the product they're showing you, they're trying to justify why you're paying for something when the product isn't ready, and the art itself isn't going to be ready for 2 weeks. Hope you enjoyed it. Okay, so sounds like a little bit of fun. I know, but I mean, you said that the Cool Cats meant for 0.069 is something the market can't handle, but these guys are looking at selling 9,000 NFTs for 0.5. A little bit more context with that video. They're aiming to be a gaming brand. Again, at the beginning of that, we showed what the NFTs look like, and they kind of resemble the Zuki. And again, as I mentioned, it already has $16 million, but the art reveal is going to be 2 weeks after the mint. Just seems kind of weird to me.
Yeah, no, totally. And yeah, it's kind of weird how it works, but even at 0.5 ETH, Valhalla will definitely mint out, whereas this Cool Cats pack will not. And that's simply because, you know, Valhalla is this new promising, they've raised 16 million and all of that. But yes, in this market, I mean, it's definitely a high price, but it's also about, I've always been of the mindset that you can have a tremendously high supply or a mint price. If there's substantial demand, then the market, hey, Killer. If there's substantial demand, then the market will just absorb it and take it. That's funny. A gaming brand that can't even get the PFP built. Yeah, so I mean, people like the art is the subjective part, right? And I think there's demand even at this mint price. I'm really concerned with where does it go from here? Yeah, and we can watch this. Yeah, let's play this, Steve, because I think
let's do this, and then we'll jump back into it. Sorry, I don't want to cut you off, but I just want to, you know.
全てを変えるチャンスを手に入れたとしたら、自分の未来を切り開くために、自分の人生を変えるために、あなたはそれを手に入れますか？人生とは必ずしも思い通りにならない。真実を見つめよう。
You might be on mute.
What do we think? Thanks.
I love that Game of Thrones dragon action at the end. That's I like that. Well done. Like yeah, I think it's well done. And to me, like I think we're going to get to a point where every NFT project is going to have absolute amazing quality when it comes to these trailers, and that will be ubiquitous. So that's wonderful. What I'm really concerned about is can fulfill their promise of developing a cultural brand and also the streaming platform, which this is the sort of their big thing is they want where they beaters, perhaps some kind of token involved and stuff like that. That's sort of the longer term play, and I still have to do a bit more research, and whether it's something that is potentially long term, but in the short term. Despite the mint price, I mean, this is one to mint for sure, just because there's a lot of demand and but as far as whether it sustains in this market, it's very, very difficult to just sustain even like above 1 ETH. It's very hard. So I'm curious myself as to how the price action plays out. But I think minting should be fine, especially with the lower tier, the Immortal for 0.3 ETH.
So I think that's interesting that we're seeing the different partnerships here. And so like we're proud to announce our newest partnership with T1 Esports. They're 3 times world champions in League of Legends and in the hunt for the 4th ring. Tune in today for the World Finals. And obviously that was back when the League of Legends final was, which DRX ended up beating T1 in a wild 5-game series. But with that being said, I mean, Guild of Guardians also has a bunch of partnerships with Fnatic, with I think Cloud9, and a whole bunch of other ones. And that was announced about a month ago, and then we haven't seen it with. So I think these partnerships are really, really cool and can be beneficial. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, how long does it take from us to get to square one to here? And I think that's one of the problems with Valhalla and for the Helix Metaverse, for example, which was another one that was a very anticipated mint not too long ago, where it was like, okay, cool, they're dropping this stuff, but everybody knows that the game and everything else that they're actually going to have is kind of far out. So you're like almost kind of pre-ordering a video game, if that's the right terminology.
Yep, I agree. And Steve, I wanted to ask. I know you were right on with that Helix stuff. So did they announce something recently? Because they had a pretty sizable surge. We can talk about that a little bit after. But just about Valhalla. Wanted to talk about how that's a very good analogy, sort of pre-ordering a game, and like I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. There has been FUD with the founder, but they have great partnerships. They know how to make stuff. I mean, it's just really the way that they market and the way that they have communicated that's the concerning part. But I still am more hopeful than others. I mean, some people are just like, it's just, it's going to be a horrible project to mint. I think it'll be fine. But for the long term, I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced that they can have the streaming platform, that they can get there to be a cultural brand. I'm not sure of that.
It'll be interesting to see overall. And I mean, to be honest, I haven't paid too much close attention since the mint for Helix. And my big issue with it is that when you looked at the trailer, it felt like there was lag to it. And I mean, as someone who's done Decentraland and it's felt laggy at times, and then had the very pleasant experience with the other side where there was like 100+ times more people in it when there was no lag whatsoever. I'm like, I think that graphically their cinematics, as you mentioned, looked decent, but when you see the actual gameplay, it felt like it wasn't necessarily up to par. And again, that can be something that can be fixed over time, but it's the question of how. Is it further along? Is there more issues if they, are able to scale it, et cetera, et cetera? So, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't played their demo or anything for Helix, but yeah, I was also a bit skeptical. They had grand promises, right, to be the GTA of really to be the GTA equivalent of Web3. So, but they're doing well. But I don't follow that ecosystem, so I don't know what they're up to. But it was just something that that sort of a gaming, relatively recent gaming project that did well. So it was nice to see.
So there was something earlier that I haven't really jumped into. So this is I don't know if I'm going to be well versed in this, but Uniswap builds public infrastructure that pushes crypto forward. Today we are excited to introduce Permit 2 and Universal Router, new smart contracts that increase the flexibility of token approvals and aggregate ERC20s and NFT swaps into one. So I guess that's kind of sounds like Uniswap's getting into NFTs. Permit 2 improves the security, UX, and flexibility of ERC20 token approvals with features like shared approval management across applications, universal permits for any token, time-bound token approvals, batch approval tokens, and revokes for tokens, and more. Universal Router aggregates ERC20 and NFT trades into a highly flexible and gas-optimized swap router. UR allows you to swap multiple tokens on Uniswap and buy NFTs across marketplaces all in one transaction. So yeah, it does sound like it's going to be an aggregator. As always, Permit 2 and Universal Router are non-upgradable, unowned, fully audited, and open sourced. They'll be released following a 2-week bug bounty period. More details to come. So I mean, this is kind of leading me to want to talk about decentralization in a way, because that's really what the entire last few days, few weeks has been about of hey, there's all these central entities and people want something that's decentralized as well as something that they're comfortable with using. And I mean, I think everybody's comfortable with Uniswap.
Yeah. And I think they own either Genie or Gem. I forget which one they own, but they bought it.
Oh, do they? Okay, interesting.
Yeah, they bought I think it was, I don't know, someone in the chat definitely knows. It was either a Genie or Gem that they purchased actually a few months. So I think that's very much a part of, so yeah, they had been into NFTs really, I think, starting when that happened. But yeah, I've always believed that, as time progresses, the technology, as far as the user experience, these aggregates, they're just going to become very, very seamless, and it's just going to be a very and UX is everything at the end of the day when you talk about any application. So they'll just become more and more seamless and more accessible, to the point where you just can easily buy and sell on your phone, with a card, opening an app. Just everything will become so much simpler. So I think this is just more towards that end. And yeah, and it's of course very encouraging to see these AMMs getting into buying these NFT aggregators, right? I mean, it was kind of inevitable. So it's just more confirmation that we're not NFTs are not going away, right? That's not the viewpoint that we should have, and I'm sure, and I know we both share in that.
Yeah, 100%. Yo, Haroon, is there, do we get updates from Green Genie? If there is, let me know. So something I want to talk about, and for anyone that does subscribe to my YouTube or check out the videos, tweets, etc., is the AI League with FIFA World Cup. There was a video that was circulating that was some Qatar people that were no, yelling at a Danish reporter, and some of the conditions in Qatar look not great. So I'm very, very curious what the public sentiment to everything around this World Cup is going to be. me if we have different kind of issues or anything like that. But with that said, for anyone that doesn't know, there is an AI league. They FIFA themselves had a partnership with EA, so every single year there's been a FIFA game. That partnership has ended, and they decided to get into partnership with the Futureverse. So that's another thing, one of the reasons why I've been so high into Fluffs. But if you're wanting to get into this is actually an NFT platform that they're not touting as NFTs. It's digital collectibles, and the way that it works is each round you're going to make different predictions. So the first game's Qatar versus Ecuador, and you're able to pick, okay, is Ecuador or Qatar going to win? And then you get to pick, okay, is there going to be an offside in the game? And there's different kind of point systems on top of being able to pick when the first goal in the game is, first half, second half, and then the rewards for it, where you kind of have these different characters you're going to get. Group stage, there's accessories in the round of 16. It's a headwear accessory. For the quarterfinals, there's a lower body accessory. Semifinals is upper body, and third place and final are the kicks, which is kind of funny because in the same brain, when we were looking at the cool cats, they talked about how, hey, if your team gets through on these specific rounds, it's going to be something for that. And obviously there's only X amount of things you're able to do. And I can throw this in the chat, Haroon, if you're wanting to get into it. But the reason why I really think this is prevalent is because I think this is going to be the first big application that is going to be an NFT besides the Reddit NFTs that people are going to have absolutely no idea that that's what it is. And it's going to be on this root network that's a layer 1 blockchain, which the tokens are getting distributed to Fluf World holders for the Genesis pieces, as well as the land, the burrows, which are at like 0.2 Ether right now. So for anyone that's curious why the hell I'm getting into that, I think there's going to be like a flow type blockchain that comes out that nobody's going to see coming, and this is kind of their first product. So depending on how this product goes, we'll see if the ecosystem ends up kind of doing amazing. So let's say you sign up and then you are like, hey, what the hell happens beyond that? As the sun sets in the action in Qatar, it'll be time to turn your attention towards a new dawn in the football gaming world, the AI League, your ticket to the future of gaming. Come back to the site after the tournament finishes. You'll be prompted to log in and create your team of 4 fully customized digital collectibles. Once you've scored your team, it'll be time to compete in the new Metaverse AI Football Manager game. See you on the streets. Join the AI League community on Discord for the most up-to-date information on the upcoming Metaverse. So, Mo, the reason why I'm wanting to bring this up here is because you're a brainiac, and I'm curious your thoughts on this, because they have an Asto token, because this is going to be involving a little bit of AI. And the way they're doing it is you as a user, let's say you sign up and then you decide to play the game or pay for the game when it comes out later, and the fee is, let's say, $5 for something. So you spend $5. That $5 then goes into a pool of the people that have staked Asto token. So assuming this has like 1 million people that pay $5, that amount ends up going into a pool that goes to the people that have staked that token. Do you like that concept, or do you see kind of any flaws with it?
Well, first, I love this concept way more than what Cool Cats is doing, and simply because, and that's simply because this is meant to be lasting and not seasonal, and they're very clear about that. I mean, you just read that, Steve, that the game starts when the football event ends. So that's like the first thing is like, okay, this has sustaining power, and it's like, okay, this could be something. Now, a question. So these will be these are not free then, right? So
you're able to go and purchase some of them right now if you're wanting to get a part of this, because these are also going to have like a token drop with it. So people have like estimated that each one of these is probably going to get about 1,000 Asto token. Yo, Lit Moose, what's up? How are you? Good to see you. But so these are also going to be used in All-Star splicing. So as like people are going to get free ones from the World Cup, but then these are the Genesis assets, and then you are able to splice them, and that also ends up using that Asto token. So that's one of the reasons why I'm like, hey, like I think if we're taking artificial intelligence and you're putting it on a partnership with FIFA that are kind of highlighting, hey, this is their big game, and you're actually getting a payout from it. And I think, if you're concerned about the legal, which I was, the team's based out of New Zealand, and they're actually really, really close with the government, and their government there gives clarity saying, hey, we view these as digital collectibles, so they don't have to worry about the SEC at all. And I mean, we've seen over the past month some people speculating, hey, this is going to rocket. And apparently this big sell right here is from people that bought in at the seed round for less than a cent. And now, they sold these at 10 cents. So, I mean, you're up a 10x. People say, hey, just get a whole bunch of 10x's. Don't worry about those 100x's. That's the way to play it. And these people were able to do that. So, again, this is something that I'm kind of bullish on. So Litmoose, is it alpha? I don't know. We'll see, but I do like the concept.
Yeah, I agree. This is not, I mean, you have that 30,000 collection holding at 0.06, 0.05. That's very, and if you can go back to that, I just want to see if there's like volume there. Let's see. Yeah, and even up top, like what is the entire volume number if you just scroll up to just further top a little bit? Yeah, okay, 3,104. Okay, yeah, so like that's something not to ignore if that's doing well. And yeah, you phrase it really well, Steve. This is it's AI, it's gaming. Those are like the next frontiers essentially, right? That's, I think everyone agrees. And what they're doing with FIFA, you really put me onto this, and I still need to really like grasp it. But this is a great, it looks like a great way.
So we're not done yet. Let me red pill you even harder on this. So there's the entire blockchain that's getting created right within this root network, and again, they're partnered with the XRPL ledger, which is like Ripple themselves. Which I think if XRP gets into NFTs, they're doing so through this blockchain, and they've got the ASM group, I forget, or AGM, whatever, who owns the Muhammad Ali rights. They've partnered with them to create an AI boxing game on top of this, which is also going to be using that ASTO token. And so let's say down the road here, we have two boxers and we have an ASM brain, which I can show in a second, where you train your brain to get better. Your AI is going to fight for you, and we might be able to sit here on Twitch, a couple months from now and have these big, fight nights where it's this AI that are fighting each other. And I don't know if people are going to find it the same as, the human interaction, but I think it's wild to think of like the concepts of what could happen with it.
And Steve, where does this fit in the entire? Where does this relate to Fluf Worlds and the entire ecosystem?
Also, is Litmoose right with that? Tier underscore NF? Okay, awesome. Yeah. Yeah. So the way that Fluf World is working with this is like, so for the Futureverse, hold on, futureverse.com. Let me just go on the white paper to show you right quick. So the root network.
I had a feeling we'd get here at some point.
Yeah. Well, I'm always curious other people's like thoughts on this. So the so the token distribution, the mycelium token is whatever that token, 10% to the initial community rewards, 15% for the land mechanics. So we're talking about the burrows, et cetera, et cetera. The ecosystem development fund, block rewards, long-term treasury. Hold on, where the hell? I feel like that's not it. We want okay, hold on. I'm clicking on the wrong damn thing here. The root network. Sorry, hold up. I was looking at the wrong thing. Liquidity assets, mycelium token. Where is the token for that? That feels weird because I thought that they changed the name from mycelium to root network. So I need to look into that. But that's originally what it was, where the token distribution was given directly to like the assets within the ecosystem. So it would be fluffs, and then it would be thingies, which was like the airdrop for them, where the official collections are here. And then eggs are apparently the things that create everything that is in the world. So thingies and eggs create the world. There are seekers, which there's also a silo token towards, where they're having like a communications network. The burrows, which is going to be kind of your land. So within those, there's like land parcels for this third kingdom, which is also involving this AI. And then for the altered state machine, there's also this land you unlock from staking this ASTO token, where you need ASTO energy, which ASTO energy is also needed for the FIFA, the Muhammad Ali, and pretty much everything around there. So they've done a pretty good job on like making everything like have a use case or like valuable, and not just for like, hey, we're putting out more NFTs. But I need to figure out for the token, because I'm confused because I didn't think it was mycelium.
Yeah, I think as someone who is just looking at it from an outside perspective, and of course you know this way better than I do. I've done some I've read this. I've watched your video. Um, this whole ecosystem is very complicated to understand, and I think that's really what's preventing it from getting more interaction, especially the fluffs. I think the fluffs, especially, there are some big reputable holders who have fluffs, and I think if I had to just pick one, those are probably just like the simplest and easiest beneficiaries. But like this mycelium token, I want to know how much of this is going to the all state machine and all the games you just mentioned, the boxing game, and it needs to be. I wish they had a huge sort of like a family tree of stuff.
Well, so apparently for the Muhammad Ali thing, and that's I need to find more about this because now that you're bringing it up, but apparently for that Muhammad Ali, there was supposed to be some of the first assets to get bridged over to this root network, and one of the incentivizations of that is that you're like helping to test the network, so you're actually supposed to get some of this root network token itself, and that's kind of one of the value props apart from, hey, you own like this AI boxer.
I see. Okay. Yeah. And yeah, and the other thing is, right, because there's so many, I mean, I think you've named like 2 or 3 different tokens.
There's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, some people can just play it the fungible route, right? They can be like, hey, I want exposure. I'll just buy the altered state token or the mycelium token. And, that's another route for people to play. But as far as the fluff ecosystem and what they're doing with, I think the state machine, that AI stuff is what's most appealing to me from the outside, because that is something that can be paired with any NFT collection, right? And you mentioned this in your video, where you can have these ASM brains be linked to Bored Apes, and that allows them to walk around in the root network. And yeah, I think this is the ASM brains are. I get them. I get what they're supposed to do. But yeah, there are a lot of collections, so I can understand if someone is awfully confused.
Well, okay, yeah, because I don't know if I'm insane here, right? Because they're basically saying, hey, we're creating this entire metaverse, and you're actually going to be able to put AI into your NFTs. Now, it's not as simple as like, hey, you have your fully rigged thing. I mean, for Bored Apes, apparently they're going through the motions right now to have every single Bored Ape availables, which, for these Gen 1 brains, the idea with it is that you are training it over time. And let's say that I have like a Schiller station or some shit within this metaverse. If I can train this brain to be like, oh, go watch this guy's Twitch, go watch him on YouTube, I'm like, hell friggin' yeah. But I don't like, is that realistic? Is that way too far away? Am I just sipping the hopium? Because I'm not sure how this is going to look. Like, what does AI in a metaverse actually mean? What's the limitations?
And exactly. And I think that's the thing, is that there is a discrepancy between time horizons. Like, for me, something like this is like probably the longest scale it can possibly be on, like years. That's, for me, something like this where you have AI. At the same time, I've spoken to Mr. 703, and I've asked him this question, and I've asked him, like, hey, you were very early on CryptoPunks. He minted like 700 CryptoPunks. And I said, Mr. 703, if you had to pick something today where you are seeing sort of, where you anticipate sort of a similar type early vibes, where would it be? And he said, it's AI. And
really?
I don't know. I think then the trick is to figure out what are the most efficient and effective ways to play that. That is what's up in the air, and I think we all have to do work on that. But at the end of the day, that's really the holy grail, right? Is finding where those asymmetric returns are in terms of like that next big thing that is perhaps being overlooked at the moment, but in a few years is going to seem inevitable. And this AI ultra straight machine stuff might be it, but it probably has to be analyzed with all of its competitors on the playing field, right? If you really want to be like, okay, if this is the thing, right? It could definitely.
Well, there's going to be competition. Like, I mean, we've seen that time and time again. I mean, the NBA Top Shot's a great example. Okay, sure, they have like the moments, but then it was everything under the sun. And why the hell is this always like the news headlines? Like, it's always some BS garbage. Like, listen, the man is a multimillionaire, maybe even a billionaire. The guy makes music, and he bought a Bored Ape. Oh, it collapsed 95%. Justin Bieber's an idiot. Guys, please shut up.
Look, I'm a fan of Justin Bieber, so don't. I mean, the guy. At least he was open-minded to participate in this technology. And I saw on Twitter that someone say that if he were to actually sell his Bored Ape, it would fetch a lot more than what it's worth because it's Justin Bieber's ape. So that is like the whole provenance aspect, right? Like, let's say, Schiller, if ever the day comes where you're to sell your ape, right? That should someone should pay a premium for that, right? Because that comes with.
Maybe I don't know.
It's trust me, that's what's gonna. If ever the day comes, right? Like it'll be branded as like your ape, the Schiller ape, and that's where things are heading. Because there'll be premiums paid for that kind of thing.
I mean, listen. You're singing sweet music to my ears. But listen, I just typed in NFT news to see what the headlines were, and of course, it didn't disappoint. But we might actually get something good here. So, PlayStation might be exploring NFTs and blockchain technology. A new patent filed by Sony Interactive Entertainment suggests the company is interested in using blockchain technology. The details of a patent application filed by Sony Interactive Entertainment suggest the PlayStation parent company may be interested in implementing NFTs and blockchain technology on its platform. The patent application title is Tracking Unique In-Game Digital Assets Using Tokens on a Distributed Ledger, as reported by Video Games Chronicle. The patent application details a system where the history of a unique in-game item would be tracked with blockchain technology, including details of who created the item, who owned it in the past, and whether it had been modified along the way. In the background section, Sony compares the digital assets in question to sports memorabilia, saying individuals often find it meaningful to own or use unique physical items related to respective celebrities or activities. The patent application suggests fans might want to collect in-game objects that were owned or created by notable esports players or gaming influencers, saying that the track data could show if an item was the one used by a player to win a major game tournament as one example. The patent application also mentions transferring items between games and even across platforms. The techniques and technologies described herein expand the functionality of digital assets associated with video games and of systems that create and manage such digital assets by tracking a history of the digital assets, the description concludes. Sony's gaming division so far hasn't had much to add to the conversation around NFTs and games, though when it announced the digital collectible program PlayStation Stars earlier this year, a spokesperson clarified that the program was not leveraging any blockchain technologies and definitely not NFTs. While SIE hasn't announced anything publicly about the patent, some of Sony's other divisions have already released their own NFTs, such as a campaign offering Spider-Man NFTs for fans who pre-bought tickets to Spider-Man No Way Home. I mean, would PlayStation getting into NFTs be one of the biggest headlines we've had like ever?
I mean, it probably, given what's coming up, I feel in the next run, it's going to be underwhelming, if I'm being honest with you. I just being honest with you. It's so funny, Steve. So today, I was listening to Seed Phrase, who was on a Spaces today, and of course he's one of those early seven trade CryptoPunk guys. And he was asked, "What are your two next big plays?" And we all know he sold that zombie ape and the other hoodie ape. And he said his next two big bets are GameFi and generative art. And what I learned from that really is that in our space, and just as you know, it's his human nature. Patience is the lacking quality in most people. Like I think we can very reasonably say that these gaming NFTs that many of them that exist now, and even some upcoming ones, will get to those points where they are like seen as, oh my, how could we have potentially missed this entire gaming era, and these NFTs were the ones to usher it in. It's going to seem obvious, but most of us, including myself, of course, right, we don't have the patience, right, to just be like, we're just like traders and we get it and out of stuff. But like gaming is definitely that next horizon, and Yuga Labs is knows that. So they're really gonna go full force ahead on that, I think.
It's gonna be fun to watch. And listen, we have about 10 minutes left before I got another guest coming by, but I do want to kind of give you the platform here for a second. And honestly, I really want to do this again, maybe even next week if you're down. But give us a little bit of info about yourself for anyone that's tuned in, that's been listening to you. This might be their first time hearing about you, so give them the lowdown.
Well, thank you. Well, first of all, Steve, I also wanted to mention before I do that, your YouTube videos have been hugely inspirational for me, and your Twitch streams. I don't watch Twitch a lot, and this is who I am. A kind of a very antisocial person I mean, like, I did all these types of things, but you have inspired me greatly. And so basically, I started in the NFT space making YouTube videos, and I kind of stopped that really for this year. I was really doing it last year, and I try to cover more technical topics like how to mint stuff, like what are gas fees, like a little more technical things. And hopefully I want to get back into doing that and making more content inspired by you. And I'd love, and that's kind of my goal. So I'd love to continue to drop into these Twitch streams, and I love getting your perspective on things. So yeah, that's where I'm trying to go, is just sort of getting back into the content creation side, and particularly getting into more of the technical stuff, more of the day trading stuff, because that's what I have focused on. So like, the collections dropping tomorrow, and sort of that kind of thing. So that's where I'm trying to go. That's sort of my ambitions.
No, I love it. It's awesome. So, I mean, I got to ask though, because it was a little bit of FUD for Moonbirds, but you're rocking it as your PFP. So is this your kind of like forever image, or what are we thinking on that front?
Well, that's a sensitive topic that you bring up, Moonbirds. For me, Moonbirds was my biggest play since being in the NFT space. I did when they happened. When the release happened, I bought in a lot, heavily into Moonbirds, and I didn't sell at those crazy high prices, and now they're back down to earth. But I'm one who abundance mindset, so I have no regrets. Moonbirds could have been like the play for me, and if I had sold all of them at reasonable prices where they were at for a few months, I would have been very much better off for it. But that's the past. And so Moonbirds is like one of those ecosystems that I was really into, and I just have a hard time getting away from it. But I also try to be receptive of news, and if things change and my thesis changes, then I'm sure to exit. But I just like this Moonbird. It was just like simple enough. This was like one of the day ones that I had purchased. But hey, even if I sell it, it's CCO, so does it really matter if it
I mean, listen, that's a great point, because it's what's the difference now with some of these NFTs? Right. Is it okay, I'm buying it for a PFP? Like, for example, there's one artist that I really like called Roscoe and Friends, and every single day for the last year, he's created a piece, like legitimately an individual piece for the entirety of the past year. And obviously there's some birds in it, and I'm like, yo, I love that. If you're a fan of it, I remember when I interviewed him forever ago, he talked about how he really wanted to challenge himself as an artist. And every time I look at this, it is kind of inspirational, because I'm like, wow, you're literally coming up with every single different kind of idea. And usually they're at like 0.07 for his pieces. So that's why we got like a whole bunch of them around that level.
Right.
But I mean, I'm sitting here thinking, okay, like, why? Okay, if I'm making it my PFP, okay, I'm buying it, right? Sure, like, I get that. But beyond that, unless you really enjoy the utility, the access, maybe, it's a Discord chat where I think some people would make fun of that if you're not somebody who's in that community or whatever using it, but some people do find that really valuable, helps them pass the time. And really, that's kind of what NFTs is a way for a lot of people to connect in a time, especially when COVID was rampant and you weren't able to go see your friends. But I mean, I guess what's your kind of thoughts on some of these NFTs that, if you're not going to some of these IRL events, or if you're not in these chats, where's the value prop?
Oh, that's a tough one. Yeah, it really varies, right? Like, some of the utility is in the event. So you've I think you've tweeted about this. The loud there's a concert like the Loud Punks
Oh
or
yeah,
something.
Rolling Loud. Yeah, Rolling
Rolling
Loud.
Loud, right? I'm sorry, I'm not a big concert.
Oh, you're good. You're good. No worries. No
Yeah,
worries.
but hey, if they're releasing a pass which gives you lifetime access, there is some intrinsic value. So you can calculate it costs $1,000 to go to this concert for a year, and I have this for however many years realistically, and you can, okay, there's a price for this, but for everything else, it's very much up in the air. It's very much sort of, oftentimes it is just like a hot potato game, but every once in a while we get some miracles, we get some sparks, and we've had these with these top 5 collections, and there is going to be, there's going to be more of that, not less, in the future when things come back. At the moment, it's very dark, and that's fine. This is a necessary part of development of any sort of early space, I guess. But yeah, so I think it's like all over the place. They're all different value propositions. You probably like can't even label them under one umbrella.
It's kind of wild to think about, like the evolution of NFTs, from the art to the collectability to the access to maybe some massive technology unlocks. I really don't know what's to be had in the future, but excited to be kind of like on this journey. But Mo, listen, I want to thank you so much for coming on here. Everybody in the chat, can we give it up for the one and only Mo, NFTier, absolute legend. Seriously, I do want to have you back again sometime soon if you're down for it. I really enjoyed this chat, and it was really, really fun for me.
Likewise, it was a pleasure. You should all give an applause for Schiller Steve. He's amazing. Like I said, I think that the quality in you that I really admire is the dedication. You can really be successful at anything. You just have to dedicate yourself. And I'm sure you'll have tremendous success in making content, because it's amazing what you're making.
Yo, making me blush. Appreciate you, sir. All right, we'll talk soon though. Enjoy your night.
All right. Take care, everyone. All right. Bye.
Okay, there we go. Was that, listen, now it's funny because I was sitting here earlier and I'm like, man, I haven't talked to Mo in a while. Is this going to be like, and I genuinely thought, it's like, you know what? We're going to talk for the whole 2 hours. Like, I could just envision that, even though we didn't talk about it. So we got that. And I hope you guys enjoyed that conversation, because honestly, I had an absolute thrill going through everything with him on that.